wake of Donald Trump's return to the White House, the world braced for a dramatic shift in America's foreign policy. Trump's campaign was anchored by a bold promise: I won't start wars, I'll stop wars. He pledged to end ongoing conflicts within 24 hours of taking office, projecting an image of a deal maker who could bring peace to the world's most unstable regions. Yet, as the months unfold, the reality on the ground diverged sharply from rhetoric. Instead of de-escalating, the world witnessed intensifying crises, from the devastating in Gaza and the unresolved Russia-Ukraine war to renewed nuclear brinkmanship with Iran. What happened to Trump's war-ending strategy, and why did it fail to deliver on its sweeping promises up to now? Welcome to In Depth.
Donald Trump is his name, and he's there to stay.
As unlikely, impossible, is now reality.
We will make America powerful. We will win, win, win. Will make America great again. Let's do what already cares. We will very quickly make America great again.
Nearly 100 days into his second term, President Trump's quick fix diplomacy has stalled amid three major crises: Russia-Ukraine conflict, the Gaza war, and Iran's nuclear ambitions. According to the Christian Science Monitor, Trump's approach, rooted in quick deal-maker-style fixes, is proving insufficient for these complex crises. Trump's initial confidence that Ukraine and Russia would rapidly agree to peace has faltered, with Ukraine rejecting the Russian demands and Moscow refusing a ceasefire. His approach to Gaza mirrors his Ukraine strategy, push for a deal that heavily favors Israel. Meanwhile, Iran's nuclear program remains a sticking point, with Trump imposing a 60-day deadline for a deal and threatening military action if Iran doesn't comply. The promise of rapid peacemaking is colliding with the hard realities of international diplomacy. In the first 100 days of Donald Trump's second term, U.S. foreign policy has been marked by rapid shifts and unpredictability. Foreign policy stated that the administration has pushed for a ceasefire in Gaza while maintaining strong, though complicated, support for Israel amid ongoing conflict. On Ukraine, Trump's team seeks a negotiated settlement with Russia, signaling a potential U.S. pullback from direct involvement. Meanwhile, Iran remains a contentious issue, with Trump oscillating between threats of military action and offers for a new nuclear deal. The article concludes that Trump's foreign policy will likely remain volatile, shaped by internal power struggles and external crises, making the next 4 years equally tumultuous.
US President Donald Trump entered the White House in 2025 with a bold promise to end wars within 24 hours. However, this vision quickly unraveled as his policies intensified conflicts in Gaza, Ukraine, and with Iran, exposing a stark gap between rhetoric and reality. In Gaza, Trump's approach escalated tensions rather than promoting peace. Shortly after taking office, he proposed that the US take over the Gaza Strip and relocate its 2.1 million Palestinian residents, envisioning a Riviera of the Middle East in its place. The plan was widely condemned as ethnic cleansing and a violation of international law, with experts warning it could constitute war crimes. Though a brief ceasefire occurred early in his term, the administration soon backed renewed Israeli military operations, allowing violence to spiral. Analysts noted that Trump's ceasefire efforts seemed more focused on media optics resolution, as he supported Israel's hardline stance and sidelined Palestinian rights. Trump's return also hardened US policy toward Israel. He appointed pro-Israel hawks opposed to Palestinian statehood and seized further undermining peace efforts. With US backing, Israel pursued territorial annexation, deepening the conflict even as public calls for peace increased. Beyond the Middle East, Trump adopted a slow diplomatic strategy in Ukraine and Iran, beginning by avoiding multilateral negotiations and embracing unilateral approaches that prolonged instability and heightened global tensions. Ultimately, Trump's pledge to end wars swiftly failed to materialize. Instead, his policies intensified conflicts, prioritizing power over peace and leaving behind a legacy of increased suffering and geopolitical turmoil.
Right, and for more analysis, we're joined by Colonel Abbas Dahouk, a former senior military advisor to U.S. Department of State from Washington, D.C., and Mr. Tobias Belgrano, international relations researcher from Buenos Aires. Together, we will dissect the promises and realities of Trump's war-ending strategy. Good evening to you, gentlemen, and welcome to In Depth. Let me start here by Colonel Dahouk. And let's begin with Trump's campaign. And Trump's campaign was built on the promise of ending wars. In your view, what was the strategic logic behind such a promise, and from what is going on right now, and a military perspective, definitely, how realistic was that promise or pledge?
Well, good afternoon to you and the guest and your viewers, and thank you for having me on your show. I mean, how realistic it's it's very early to judge at the moment. You're right that his policy, whether it's domestic policy in the United States or now international policy, it's very optimistic, and it's.
Colonel Dahouk, let me just reiterate the words of President Trump, a then candidate. I will end the war in 24 hours. If I was there, there wouldn't have been wars. Right, 24 hours. Now, this is what I'm speaking when I'm speaking about realistic. After we're approaching 100 days, right? Please go ahead.
You're very right. I mean, those are campaign slogans, and it's very unrealistic. And I'm sure President Trump and most of his cabinet members, they know that this is very unrealistic to do. But they thought perhaps 20 hours, meaning the first 100 days. They thought within the first 100 days, they can achieve, at least they can stop the war between Ukraine and Russia, and also thought having Iran sitting at a round table to discuss the nuclear program. I think in their minds they thought they could do that, and obviously now it's almost 100 days, and things are not going well on all four fronts. But again, it's still 100 days. Issues like war and peace, as we look at the history, it's very hard to resolve within 24 hours. So perhaps things are getting worse. Maybe there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and perhaps things will get even worse with time. Time will tell.
Well, in 100 days, a lot has happened already. But I'll get back to you here, Colonel Dahouk, and let me go to Mr. Tobias. And Trump's foreign policy often prioritized bilateral deals. Now, from your point of view, America's interests were put as priority. Now, from your point of view, how did this kind of policy affect the international alliances and efforts for peace so far?
Hi, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me. I'm glad to be here again. Well, according to your question and what was being discussed before by my colleague, I believe that Mr. Trump has an approach to put in practice what he promised into reality, but reality has been harder than what he promised, and this has been shown every time and every conflict he has tried to approach. This kind of magic solutions to bring peace in 24 hours have been seen in outsiders who gain power in every worldwide, like in Argentina for dollarization, or in many countries ending migration in Europe in 24 hours. This kind of approach has been repeated in times, and this has shown the difficulty that it has to be implemented in reality. Why is this? Because Trump is trying to approach his to impose his America First approach, and the world is much more different than it was when he was in his first presidency. During his first administration, he was able to impose to his European allies the America First approach, not only in commerce but also in defense, or also to China. But now it's more different. The countries are a little more detached from the not only the American sphere, also American economy, and the advance of China has also shown that how countries can rely also on China or rather than from the US. So I believe that his America First approach is shown that America is in the end very weak in the world sphere, because of much weaker than he expected, because he's not able to impose his will. As you were discussing before, he's not able to impose diplomatic solutions with the speed he would want to, with the power of the U.S. Diplomatic elites. I think this America First approach has shown how countries can rely by themselves or on third parties rather than relying on the U.S.
Colin Dahouk, what do you have on Mr. Tobias and what he said? And has Trump's America First doctrine diminished U.S. military commitment to NATO in Europe? And what are the implications of such policies?
I mean, America First policy, it does appeal to the American population, to the American voters. But obviously, when you engage internationally and you come with the policy of America First, it's a non-starter from already, because the international arena, international countries, whether they're friend or foe, have a vote in the process in diplomacy. Trump has chose to use not just regular diplomacy, traditional diplomacy, where you invite friends and allies to the table. He's using what we call a corrosive diplomacy with a show of force, and is trying to force America First to the world, for example. I mean, there are some good things and bad things with things, but obviously it's not working at the moment. Times have changed, like your guest said. This is different time from the first administration. Now we see that Russia and China are collaborating. We see that Iran and Russia are collaborating. And North Korea has also provide complementary efforts. So those are new challenges for Trump. We see Europe is working together perhaps a little more against the United States in multiple issues. So yeah, times has changed, and the Trump administration trying to navigate their way as they see fit. And like you mentioned earlier, has not worked yet. Has not worked in Yemen. Has not worked in with Hamas, and also Hezbollah in Lebanon. And what would happen here in the nuclear program? It's also to be seen. The United States wants to negotiate the deal with Iran, while Israel is does not trust the Iranian regime, and they don't want any negotiation to go on. So it's still very, the stakes are still high, and we just have to wait and see again.
You said here that the American nation favors the America First policy, but did really his policies reflect well on the American nation? We'll come back to you again. Mr. Tobias, how has the US administration's unwavering support for Israel impacted peace efforts in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict?
Well, the Trump administration has backed Israel from even the early stages of the campaign, so that has a lot to say about how Trump approaches the conflict in Gaza, and also his pretty strange solutions like he shared on Twitter for the Gaza Strip and relocating people and doing a luxury space in the area, which is, in my opinion, preposterous. But yeah, I mean, the alliance with Israel, with Trump, has sealed completely his approach for peace in the region, and I believe that's really the main issue that's causing the impossibility of having a peace because the US does not approach with equilibrium doesn't try to balance the conflict rather than supporting Israel no matter what, and that's causing mainly the difficulties to bring peace to the region.
Colonel Dahouk, what do you have on that? We've seen in Gaza and Lebanon Trump's support for Israel, and that has coincided with escalating violence. Now, how has this shaped the conflict trajectory so far?
I mean, it is an unconditional support, and that's not new from the United States. The previous administration, the Biden administration, also had showed an unconditional support. It's the Hamas themselves. I mean, Hamas is still classified as a terrorist organization. They're still holding hostages, including American hostages. Even the Palestinian authorities are disagreeing with what Hamas is doing.
Right.
The President Mahmoud, yeah.
Right.
So that's the
unequivocal support of the US to Israel has been always and forever. But
yes.
We've heard some statements that were never told in the history of the United States by an American president, as Mr. Tobias said, the Riviera, the Riviera issue of Gaza, the displacement of Palestinians in Gaza. What do you think? What do you have on that?
Well, I mean, I agree with you, but I think the main issue is the two-state solution. The main issue is the not the unconditional support. I mean, there are Arab countries right now normalize their relationship with Israel. Two countries have they have peace treaty with Israel, and Trump right now he's trying to deliver more countries to join the Abraham Accord. So the key issue is how to resolve the Palestinian issue as an independent country. That's the key thing. I mean, the unconditional support of United States to Israel is not going to go away. I mean, there is a U.S. law to ensure Israel has the qualitative edge and the military edge in the region. This is a U.S. law that not only this president, the future president has to abide by. And so again, the issue is just like with the Saudi government. Saudi government wants to do some kind of relationship with Israel, but not at the expense of the Palestinian. If a solution or some kind of parity or dignity with the Palestinians has to come first, but that has to come from Israel itself. United States it's very difficult to force that on them.
But
The Israeli people themselves has to do it.
But Israel cannot be pressured except with a big power and definitely
economically and politically on the international and also militarily. Political will at the moment. I think there is a political will inside Israel. People of Israel are not agreeing with that. I like to believe that Israel as a country is bigger than its government. So there is a way to do it from the inside, and I think if that does not change, it'll be very difficult for any administration to bring that much force on Israel because of all these domestic issues and or that affect the foreign policy of U.S. conduct in the region.
The question here is who is pressuring who, Colonel Dahouk.
I mean, this is democracy. You know, democracy. There's a pressure from the public.
Democracy is something inside.
Yes.
But we're speaking about who's pressuring who. The United States is putting pressures on Israel, or it's vice versa. Mr. Tobias, Trump's negotiations on Ukraine seem to prioritize U.S. interests, such as the Metis agreement, for an instant. How does this affect America's alliances and credibility?
Well, it's affecting in many fronts, especially in the European front, because as the U.S. is managing the negotiations, pushing aside his friends in Europe. I mean, despite all the rhetoric of being pro-Western, the Europeans have been the most punished ones in the commercial, well, at least initially in the commercial part and also in the diplomatic part, where Trump cites them, I mean, doesn't include them in the negotiation and negotiates directly with Mr. Putin. And this negotiation, Mr. Putin has shown once again how promises in campaign are one thing and reality is one other thing. I believe that Russia, in this case, today, right now, Donald Putin, the U.S. Representative Steve Witkoff, right now, to once again push peace in the east of Europe to persuade Vladimir Putin of bringing peace back to Europe. But Vladimir Putin has also shown his rush to bring peace immediately, because he, in the end of the day, despite Trump says he has cards, in the end of the day, Vladimir Putin seems to be having the cards, because Trump has promised to stop the war. Yesterday, last night, Trump tweeted "Stop Vladimir" against the attack on Kiev. So Putin has shown he has no rush to stop the war, and he's going to sell peace very expensively. He's not going to give peace right away and very easily as Trump expected. After he was elected, Putin would be very afraid of him, and he would directly stop the war or engage in a negotiation by stopping fire within Ukraine. So this hasn't happened, and this has go again. Sorry.
At the expense of who here?
At the expense of the European Union, which was France and the UK, which were strong allies of Ukraine. So in this, the US negotiates directly with Russia, them.
Colonel we're going to another very critical file. How did the U.S. withdrawal from the Iran nuclear deal affect security and military postures? We're speaking about the previous withdrawal and now a threat also to end such negotiations.
I mean, Iran continue to enrich, despite the Trump administration withdrew from that, and despite all the diplomatic pressure on Iran, the maximum economic pressure during the first Trump administration, which continued through the Biden administration, and now there is more economic pressure, and most recently you have the military pressure, the show of force, having the two aircraft carriers in the region. Those are unprecedented force to be present in one region. And also you have the deployment of the strategic bombers, the B-2 bombers. The only message there is to deliver strategic bombing against deep nuclear programs, nuclear sites inside Iran. That's the only target for them. So despite all that, the Iranians are still threatening to continue their program. The weak point here is the American foreign policy in general, as you know, changes with the administration every 4 years. And the Iranians or the Russians or the Chinese, they know they can't have any binding agreement with the president. They all want a binding agreement with the American people through Congress. And they're not going to get it through the president, not this president. It's not going to happen with the current domestic balance between Democrats and Republicans. So because of that, it's very hard for the Biden administration to achieve a political win. Very hard for the whoever on the other side, the Ukrainians, the Russians, the Chinese, or the Iranians, to accept anything from the administration. So it is very, the stakes are high again. It's a very tough situation for any party. And I think the Trump administration thought that coercive diplomacy, show of might fulfill, but it's not happening at the moment.
Colonel Abbas Dahouk, a former senior military advisor to U.S. Department of State from Washington, D.C., and Mr. Tobias Belgrano, an international relations researcher from Buenos Aires. We thank you both, gentlemen, for your valuable insights and analysis. And as today's discussion reveals, the chasm between campaign promises and geopolitical realities can be vast. From Gaza to Ukraine and Iran, the world continues to grapple with the consequences of U.S. policy choices. As we navigate this uncertain era, one question remains: can bold promises ever truly deliver peace, or do they risk igniting new crises? On that concludes this episode of our program In Depth. Many thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more updates on Qnews.
In an age where news stands out by delivering curated and reliable content that speaks directly to your interests and concerns.
Gaza, where the humanitarian catastrophe continues to unfold under the shadow of Israel.
Vladimir Putin's recent changes to Russia's nuclear policy aimed at confronting the West.
Lebanon stands at a critical crossroads following the assassination of Hassan Nasrallah.
War is raging in the Middle East, could be either escalated or ended based on the stance of the U.S. president.
The political landscape has evolved since Trump's first term to the national political scene.
Successful trial of the Suez Canals.
Yemen, a key theater of regional and international power struggles, highlight the intricate web of conflicts that connect the Middle East.
Làm cà phê, bây giờ có công ty bao tiêu sản phẩm của mình và họ mua cái tiêu chuẩn cà phê theo chỉ dẫn của người mua, có nghĩa là họ chỉ cho mình chăm sóc phân bón theo cái hướng của họ và cách hái cà phê chín, thì họ mua giá trị nó cao gấp rưỡi, có nhiều lúc gần gấp đôi giá cà phê của thị trường, thì cái thu nhập của mình nó sẽ là tốt hơn rất nhiều.
Những năm vừa qua thì cái biến đổi khí hậu nó rất là lớn và cái diện tích canh tác của cà phê không thể là mở rộng ra được, thì là chúng tôi khi mà làm là phát triển trên những cái diện tích đã có sẵn và hợp pháp để và thay đổi cái chất lượng trên những diện tích đấy, thì ước mong rằng chúng tôi sẽ tạo những cái sản phẩm giá trị cao hơn những sản phẩm thông thường lâu giờ người nông dân làm.
ฟอกเร็วแบบผิดปกตินี่ขาวหมดเลยอ่ะไม่เคยขาวมาถึงขนาดนี้ปีนี้ขาวมากฟอกหมดเลยอ่ะแบบว่าเหมือนชีวิตจิตใจเลยนะหนูนะถ้ามันมีปอกขามันไม่ไหลอุดมสมบูรณ์เวลาออกหาปลาตอนกลางคืนตกหมึกตกไก่อย่างเงี้ยมันก็หากินง่ายสบาย
หาปะการังปกติไม่ได้เลยค่ะตอนนี้ส่วนใหญ่ซีดค่ะก็สัก 20-30% ก็ฟอกอยู่แล้วก็มีสัก 5% ที่ตายแล้วค่ะเนื่องจากซึ่งเมื่อกี้ที่ลงน้ำไปก็จะรู้สึกทันทีที่ลงน้ำเลยว่าน้ำอุ่นมากซึ่งถ้าเช็คจากไดคอมแล้วเนี่ยอยู่ที่33องศาค่ะในสภาวะภูมิอากาศที่เรียกว่าตอนนี้อยู่ในภาวะโลกเดือดนะคะไม่ใช่โลกร้อนแล้วอย่างเงี้ยค่ะมันก็เกี่ยวข้องไปกับอุณหภูมิน้ำทั้งนั้นเลยค่ะก็เมื่ออุณหภูมิบรรยากาศสูง
มันเป็นเรื่องความมั่นคงอาหารนะครับแต่ขณะเดียวกันผมว่า มันเป็นความมั่นคงของการประกอบอาชีพด้วยนะครับเพราะถ้าทรัพยากรมันหาได้ยากขึ้นต้นทุนที่ลงไปสูงขึ้นมูลค่าของอาหารทะเลมันอาจจะสูงขึ้น
ปะการังเองอยู่มาตั้งได้หลายร้อยปีเนาะก็ยังมีความหวังอยู่ค่ะว่าเขาจะทนได้แต่ทั้งนี้ทั้งนั้นสเต็ปหรือว่าความเร็วของการเพิ่มขึ้นของอุณหภูมิน้ำทะเลหรือภาวะโลกร้อนเนี่ยค่ะถ้าก้าวกระโดดจริงอะระบบนิเวศก็น่าจะได้รับผลกระทบอย่างมากกว่านี้
The amusement is in the journey. With experience and knowledge, you will discover and understand. We will explore the world together and live the adventure of finding news on Qnews.
C'est une œuvre ici, une des particularités, c'est qu'elle est faite avec des éléments 3D. On a ici un bateau qui fait penser à ces bateaux surchargés de gens qui tentent la traversée de la Méditerranée. Et puis c'est une petite fille qui tient un phare. J'ai des lampes qui vont filer la lumière de ce phare. Le phare, pour moi, dans la symbolique, c'est vraiment celui qui nous guide quand on est perdu en mer. Et j'espère que finalement, cette œuvre-là, elle va nous aider, à toute modestie gardée, à nous poser des questions, à nous guider dans les problématiques et la tourmente qu'on peut avoir dans ces problématiques migratoires. Et après, sur place, ici, j'ai passé 4 jours de peinture. Et après, il y a toutes les parties de la documentation en drone, etc., etc. Donc à peu près une semaine sur place. Il y a une partie prévoir, peu de temps sur place, en fait. L'œuvre après va durer environ, je dirais, entre une semaine et deux. Entre une semaine et 2 semaines, ça va dépendre des intempéries, de la pluie, de la repousse de l'herbe, en fait.
In a world of continuous change, events are unfolding faster than ever. Qnews cuts through the noise, bringing you objective, in-depth reporting on everything from politics and economy to culture and sports. Stay informed, stay empowered, stay with Q News.
You're watching Q News. Here are the top stories for this hour. Egypt's President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi has reaffirmed Egypt's unwavering position in war in Gaza and delivering humanitarian aid to its residents. Speaking on Sinai Liberation Day, the Egyptian leader stressed that lasting peace hinges on the establishment of an independent Palestinian state. International Agency President el-Sisi has further emphasized that Gaza's reconstruction must follow the Arab Islamic framework, rejecting any attempts at displacement and reaffirming Egypt's commitment to protecting both Palestinian rights and its own national security. President el-Sisi also underlined Egypt's historic role in defending the Palestinian cause against efforts to undermine it. The UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees says 420,000 people have been against. UNRWA confirmed that over 142 square kilometers of Gaza are now under active evacuation orders, with more than 2/3 of the territory either declared a no-go zone under evacuation or both. Israeli air raids have killed at least 13 Palestinians across multiple areas in Gaza since early morning. In the north, an elderly man and a woman were killed in air and artillery strikes on Gaza City's El Zaytun district and Jabalia refugee camp. In southern Gaza, 5 members of the same family were killed when Israeli forces struck tents housing displaced people west of Khan Yunis. Sanctions aggravated Yemen's humanitarian crisis, bombings causing devastation and economic restrictions deepening poverty. The airstrikes have targeted residential areas, leaving survivors to recount the destruction of their homes and lives. Since the start of this year, strikes have been across the nation. Meanwhile, the United Nations and the World Health Organization face increasing assistance, with reports of logistical issues and aid workers being placed at risk. Sudan's army said it has made civilian protection a central focus since the start. Operations have been carefully planned and executed, with prior warnings issued and safe evacuation routes established. The army also stated that it has restricted airstrikes in populated areas where rapid support forces remain embedded. Congo and Rwanda are expected to sign an agreement today in Washington to promote peace and economic development. The deal comes amid fighting in eastern Congo and is supported by U.S. diplomats. The Iranian Foreign Ministry stated that progress depends on Washington demonstrating genuine intent and seriousness in the talks. U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff is expected to join the third round of discussions in Moscow tomorrow. The talks come as regional and international powers push to ease tensions and chart a path back 15 nuclear. A senior official in the Pakistani-administered region of Kashmir reported an overnight exchange of gunfire between Pakistani and Indian forces along the line of control, the de facto border in the disputed Kashmir region. Indian military sources confirmed that the Indian Army responded to gunfire from Pakistani forces, which targeted Indian positions in the Jammu and Kashmir region. These sources told NDTV that security forces responded effectively to the attack, which began Thursday evening with light weapons. No injuries have been reported. The Pakistani Foreign Ministry has reaffirmed that the country's armed forces remain prepared to defend against any reckless actions. In a statement, Pakistan emphasized that it will not tolerate any violation of its sovereignty and security and will close its airspace to Indian aircraft if necessary. The ministry also reaffirmed Pakistan's commitment to peace while firmly stating that it will not allow anyone to infringe upon its sovereignty. This concludes our top stories for this hour. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for more updates on Q News.